Listen to that crisp snap. This carrot, pulled just this morning, feels as firm and sweet as any summer bounty. But it's February, and I haven't bought a fresh vegetable from the market since autumn. How, you ask? When the garden sleeps, many folks believe only deep freezing, canning, or expensive trips to the store can keep a harvest fresh through the long winter. Yet, for generations, people found an older, simpler way to enjoy homegrown produce year-round without relying on electricity or elaborate processing. The method is natural cellar storage, applying time-honored principles of a traditional root cellar to common spaces in your home. This works by harnessing the earth's insulation and natural humidity, protecting your produce from rapid changes that cause spoilage. Within moments, I'll show you the core principles: maintaining a cool, stable temperature between 32 and 40 degrees Fahrenheit and a high humidity ranging from 85 to 95%. These conditions, combined with proper ventilation and darkness, dramatically slow down the natural respiration and enzymatic activity that make vegetables rot, shrivel, or sprout. This allows them to remain fresh for weeks and often for many months. This approach is about more than just reducing your grocery bill, and you will see savings on fresh produce in winter. It's about the satisfaction of eating wholesome, homegrown food long after the last frost, enjoying the true flavors of your garden. It reduces reliance on far-traveled grocery produce, building household independence. While a modern refrigerator typically lasts between 10 to 20 years, unexpected failures can happen, leaving you scrambling and tied to a persistent electric bill. This natural method offers a quiet, reliable alternative that serves you steadily. Now, to be honest, this doesn't mean every single vegetable can be stored this way, nor will it entirely eliminate every trip to the market. But for many of your core garden staples, it's remarkably effective. One of the biggest misconceptions I've observed is that any cool basement corner will automatically do the trick. While some vegetables are more forgiving, true long-term success requires careful attention and deliberate management of specific temperature, humidity, and consistent airflow, all tailored to the needs of particular crops. Ignoring these distinctions often leads to disappointment and wasted effort. So, how can you discern which of your garden treasures are best suited for this Earth's pantry method and which ones should stay in the refrigerator? What is the single most important mistake to avoid when you're setting up your own natural cellar space, one that could undermine all your efforts? And how can you easily test if your storage spot has the right conditions without needing specialized or expensive equipment? Stay with me, and we'll uncover these old ways secrets and practical steps, ensuring your harvest lasts. When I was a boy, growing up in Lancaster County in the 1940s, we didn't have electric refrigerators in every home. Our cold storage was a small stone-lined room dug partly into the earth beneath our summer kitchen. I remember the cool, damp air that met my face as Father opened the heavy wooden door, the earthy scent of potatoes mingling with the faint sweetness of apples from their separate bin. I'd watch as Mother carefully laid carrots in wooden crates layered with moist sand, their tops trimmed neatly. Her hands, strong and calloused from a season of work, would gently press the damp sand around each root. Those carrots, I recall, would stay firm and vibrant green on their trimmed tops well into late March. One crisp January morning, I bit into one of those stored carrots. It had the crispness and sweet taste of fresh harvest, a true marvel when the world outside was covered in snow. It wasn't magic, just careful stewardship. That childhood memory wasn't just a nostalgic picture. It was a practical lesson in a principle that modern science now confirms. My parents, and generations before them, understood intuitively what university extension services and agricultural research have since studied in detail. Specific environmental conditions truly preserve produce. For instance, the University of Missouri Extension highlights that effective root cellars rely on cool, stable temperatures between 32 and 40 degrees Fahrenheit and high humidity, often between 80 to 95%, depending on the type of vegetable. These steady conditions, it explains, significantly slow down the respiration rate of harvested produce. Respiration is essentially how fast a vegetable breathes and uses up its stored energy, leading to spoilage. The colder the environment, without freezing, the slower this process, which preserves natural sugars and moisture within the vegetables, extending their viability. Similarly, the University of Wyoming Cooperative Extension notes that traditional methods like packing vegetables in materials such as damp sawdust from untreated wood or clean sand helps maintain consistent surface humidity. This practice is crucial for preventing vegetables from drying out and shriveling, particularly valuable in regions or storage spaces that might naturally be a bit drier. Such materials create a microenvironment for each vegetable, holding in moisture right where it's needed. What these modern studies firmly establish is the why behind the old ways, the scientific basis for our ancestors' choices regarding temperature, humidity, and the materials they used. They confirm that these specific conditions are critical for slowing spoilage, retaining essential moisture, and preventing premature sprouting. However, these insights do not suggest that a natural cellar is superior to modern refrigeration for all types of food, nor do they claim that traditional methods are entirely maintenance-free. Instead, they offer a scientifically backed, complementary, and energy-independent approach for specific types of produce, giving us powerful tools for greater self-reliance. The magic of natural cellar storage lies in a few simple principles working together, each playing its part to keep your harvest sound. First, temperature. The earth itself acts as a giant insulator. Below the frost line, ground temperatures remain surprisingly stable, typically cool in winter and moderate in summer. This keeps your storage space consistently between 32 and 40 degrees Fahrenheit, 04.5%, which is cold enough to dramatically slow down the metabolic processes in vegetables, but not so cold as to freeze them. Next, humidity. Most root vegetables and sturdy greens thrive in high humidity between 85 and 95%. This steady moisture prevents them from drying out, shriveling, and losing their crispness. A simple dirt floor can often provide this naturally, or shallow pans of water can help if your floor is concrete. Third, darkness. Light, especially for potatoes, encourages greening, which can make them bitter and even develop a toxic compound called solanine. Darkness also helps preserve the vitamins in many vegetables. Finally, ventilation. Even in a cool, dark, and humid space, stale air can encourage mold and unpleasant odors. A gentle, consistent airflow prevents this, exchanging old air for fresh, and helping to regulate the overall temperature and humidity balance. This method is quite different from mere pantry storage, which is generally warmer and drier, suitable for things like dried beans, grains, or winter squash. that prefer less moisture. It's also distinct from a typical household refrigerator, which offers controlled cold but often lacks the consistent high humidity ideal for many root crops, sometimes causing them to shrivel quickly if not properly bagged. A natural cellar provides a unique combination of conditions that suits specific types of produce better than other common household options. This natural cellar storage is a true blessing if you have a significant garden harvest, especially root crops like carrots, beets, parsnips and potatoes, or sturdy greens like cabbage. It's ideal for homes with an unheated basement, a garage that stays cool but above freezing, or even a well-insulated and vented shed. If you're looking to reduce your energy footprint and enjoy homegrown produce year-round, or if you live in an area prone to power outages, this method offers remarkable resilience and independence. However, it might not be the best fit if you live in a very warm climate where ground temperatures rarely drop below 50 degrees Fahrenheit, as maintaining the ideal cold temperature of 32 to 40 degrees will be challenging without active cooling. It's also not ideal for highly perishable items like berries, tender leafy greens that bruise easily, or delicate vegetables like peppers and cucumbers, which need different care. Likewise, vegetables that prefer warmer, drier conditions, like some types of onions, require their own separate drier zone. If you have no consistent cool, dark, and humid space available, or if you're not prepared to periodically check on your stored produce, you may find the effort outweighs the benefit. For successful storage using this method, you'll need sturdy containers like wooden crates, bushel baskets, or heavy-duty plastic bins. For packing materials, damp but not wet sand, clean sawdust from untreated wood, or peat moss are excellent choices to help maintain humidity for specific vegetables. A simple thermometer and hygrometer, that's a device to measure humidity, will be your best friends for monitoring your storage space. And of course, the most important materials are your carefully harvested vegetables themselves, ready for their long winter rest. The journey to long-lasting vegetables begins even before they leave the ground. Harvest your root vegetables as late in the season as possible, ideally before a hard freeze truly sets in, usually when the soil has cooled considerably. Handle them gently as you lift them from the earth, avoiding any bruising or cuts, which can open pathways for rot. Do not wash them. Simply brush off any excess soil clinging to the roots. For certain crops, a special curing period is a vital first step, allowing them to prepare for their long rest. For example, potatoes need to be cured for 7 to 10 days in a warm, dark, and humid place, typically between 50 and 60 degrees Fahrenheit. This period allows their skins to toughen and any small wounds they might have sustained during harvest to heal. Winter squash and pumpkins benefit from a similar curing period, but they prefer a warmer 75 to 80 degrees and well-ventilated space for about 10 days to help their outer skins harden. Onions and garlic, on the other hand, need to be cured in a warm, dry, and very well-ventilated area for several weeks until their outer skins become papery and their necks feel completely dry before they are ready for storage. Before any produce is brought inside, ensure your chosen storage spot, whether it's a dedicated root cellar, a cool basement corner, or even a temporary outdoor pit, meets the core requirements we discussed: stable, cool temperature, high humidity, complete darkness, and good ventilation. If your space has a dirt floor, that's often enough to provide the natural humidity needed. If you have a concrete floor, you can place shallow pans of water around the area, or periodically sprinkle a layer of gravel on the floor with water to add moisture to the air. Make sure there's no direct light, even a faint glow, reaching the vegetables. For ventilation in a basement, a simple open window with a secure screen or a small fan run intermittently can provide enough air exchange. For outdoor pits or sheds, ensure air can move freely without letting in pests or freezing temperatures. Remember to screen all openings securely to prevent rodents or insects from finding their way to your stored food. This next step is critical and often overlooked, friend. Some fruits, like apples and ripe bananas, and even certain vegetables like tomatoes, naturally release ethylene gas. Ethylene is a ripening agent, and while helpful for some things, many vegetables, particularly potatoes, carrots, and cabbage, are highly sensitive to it. Exposure to ethylene gas can cause them to sprout prematurely or spoil much faster than they should. Therefore, you must always store ethylene-producing fruits and vegetables in a completely separate area from ethylene-sensitive ones. If you have a large cellar, use different rooms or well-sealed airtight bins for separation. For smaller storage spaces, an unheated garage or even an attic might be a better spot for items like winter squash, which not only produce ethylene, but also prefer a warmer, drier environment than most root crops. Now, for packing specific vegetables, each has its own preference. Root crops, carrots, beets, parsnips, turnips, rutabagas. First, trim off all green tops to within about ½ inch, as these greens will continue to draw moisture from the roots during storage. Layer these roots in sturdy wooden crates, bushel baskets, or heavy-duty plastic bins. Pack them with moist, but not wet sand, clean sawdust from untreated wood or peat moss. Make sure each vegetable is fully covered by the packing material and, ideally, not touching its neighbors. This keeps moisture in and helps prevent any potential disease from spreading. Store these at 32 or 40 degrees, 04.5 degrees, and aim for 90-95% humidity. Potatoes. After their curing period, store potatoes in open bins, breathable burlap sacks, or wooden crates. Do not wash them. It is especially important to keep them in complete darkness to prevent greening, which, as we mentioned, indicates the formation of solanine. The optimal temperature for potatoes is a bit warmer than other root crops, around 38 to 40 degrees, 4.5 degrees, with 80-90% humidity. And I must emphasize again, do not store potatoes with apples. Cabbage. Late maturing firm heads of cabbage store best. Remove any loose or damaged outer leaves before storing. You can wrap each head individually in newspaper to help prevent moisture loss and the spread of decay. Place them on slatted shelves, ensuring they aren't touching each other to allow for good air circulation. Maintain conditions of 32-40 degrees to 4.5 degrees and 90-95% humidity. Winter squash and pumpkins. Once cured, these prefer a cooler, drier location, typically around 50 or 55 degrees, 10-30 degrees, with 60-75% humidity. An unheated closet, a spare room in the house, or a dry corner of a basement away from high humidity areas is often perfect. Store them on shelves or racks, not touching, and ensure good air circulation all around each one. Remember, do not store these near your high humidity root crops. Onions and garlic. After they've cured thoroughly, these prefer cool and dry conditions, specifically 32-35 degrees, 02 degrees, and 60-70% humidity. Store them in mesh bags, braided ropes, or in shallow open boxes to ensure maximum air circulation. Any dampness will quickly lead to mold and spoilage for onions and garlic, so keep them well away from your moist packing materials. Once you've stored your produce, your work isn't quite done, my friend. Plan to inspect your vegetables every few weeks. Gently check for any signs of spoilage, soft spots, mold, excessive sprouting, or unpleasant odors. Remove any affected vegetables immediately to prevent the problem from spreading to healthy ones. A single rotten apple truly can spoil the barrel, as the old saying goes. Not all vegetables are suited for natural cellar storage, and not all climates make it easy. Tender greens, such as lettuce or berries, and delicate items like peppers or cucumbers, will not thrive. They require different, often colder or drier conditions. Your local climate also plays a significant role. In regions with consistently cold winters and stable ground temperatures, maintaining optimal conditions, 32 out of 40-degree bass, is much simpler. But in areas with mild winters or fluctuating ground temperatures, your cellar might warm up too much, accelerating spoilage. In such cases, consider insulating your storage space more thoroughly, or perhaps using the method only for the coldest months and supplementing with other preservation techniques. This method is not set it and forget it. Regular checks are vital. Beyond removing spoiled items, you'll need to monitor your temperature and humidity. If it gets too dry, sprinkle the floor with water or add more shallow pans of water. If it's too damp, improve ventilation or reduce sources of moisture. Packing materials like sand or sawdust also need checking for moisture, re-dampen or refresh them if they become too dry. Look for clear signs that your storage is failing. Widespread mold growth, excessive sprouting across multiple items, a strong unpleasant smell indicating rot, or significant shriveling of produce that should be firm. These signals mean it's time to reassess your conditions. If produce consistently spoils rapidly, your temperature might be too high, humidity too low or too high for specific crops, or ventilation inadequate. If a bin of carrots develops soft rot, discard all affected carrots immediately and sterilize the bin before reuse. Do not try to salvage heavily molded or rotting food by trimming. Toxins can spread invisibly throughout the item. Now, for some critical safety points to always keep in mind, adequate ventilation is paramount to prevent mold and mildew, which degrade produce and can affect air quality. Ensure all flues, vents, and openings have fine screens to keep pests out. Inspect regularly for signs of rodents and insects, as your cellar is a potential food source for them. Use exclusion methods, solid walls, sealed doors, and screened vents, rather than chemical repellents near stored food. If building a new cellar or pit or altering an existing basement, ensure its structural stability. Consult with local building codes or a professional, especially in areas with high water tables or unstable soil. Use only untreated wood for crates or shelves that come into direct contact with food. Avoid pressure-treated lumber, as its chemicals can leach into your produce. For food safety, always discard any produce that shows signs of extensive mold, bitterness, or has greening, particularly with potatoes. Trimming a small superficial mold spot might be acceptable for some firm vegetables, but if mold is extensive or penetrates deeply, discard the entire item. Never assume cooking makes rotten food safe to eat. One common misconception is that simply filling your cellar means better storage. In truth, while a fuller cellar can help maintain humidity, overcrowding hinders air circulation, promoting rot. Another mistake is storing slightly damaged produce just to see. Even a small bruise can be an entry point for bacteria and mold, potentially contaminating an entire batch. Only store healthy, undamaged produce from the start. With proper care and selection, you can realistically expect to store root crops like carrots and beets, for 4 to 6 months, potatoes for 3 to 5 months, and some varieties of cabbage for up to 6 months. Winter squash can last 3 to 6 months, and onions and garlic typically 2 to 4 months. Your success will be a testament to your diligent monitoring and understanding of each crop's specific needs, providing you with fresh, healthy food well into the colder part of the year. How can you truly know if your natural cellar storage is working as it should? The simplest test is a comparison, friend. At harvest time, set aside a small batch of your chosen vegetables, say 5 carrots and 5 potatoes, and store them in a typical cool, dry pantry or even a sealed plastic bag in your refrigerator, mimicking common home storage. Then store an identical batch in your prepared cellar space, following all the steps we've discussed. After 1 month, then 2, retrieve them and compare. Do the cellar-stored carrots still snap crisply when you break them? Are the potatoes free of sprouts and soft spots with firm, unblemished skins? You'll feel the difference in firmness, taste the difference in sweetness, and clearly see the difference in longevity. This direct comparison will give you a clear, honest indication of your cellar's effectiveness. Keep in mind, no 2 harvests are exactly alike. The soil, the rain, and the sunshine all play a part. The same applies to storage conditions, which can vary slightly even in the most carefully prepared spaces. A particularly wet growing season might mean produce stores a bit differently than a dry one. So, consider your results a practical guide for your own homestead, not a definitive scientific experiment for everyone, but a very useful way to see the value right in front of you. Just like my mother's hands, carefully placing those carrots in damp sand decades ago, the act of tending to your winter store connects you to a rhythm older than electricity. It's a quiet satisfaction, knowing that the earth beneath your feet is working faithfully to provide for your table, extending the bounty of the summer sun. It brings a deep sense of peace and thankfulness when you can reach down into your own store and pull out something fresh and vibrant, even when snow blankets the ground outside. I encourage you to try these old ways. If you've experimented with natural cellar storage, share your experiences in the comments below. What worked well for you? What challenges did you face, and how did you overcome them? Your wisdom helps build our shared knowledge. Next time, we'll explore simple, natural ways to keep pests out of your garden without harsh chemicals. Stay frugal, stay free.